This is IBM Museum, and I'm now at 100000000 subscribers. And that's too bad that there's not any commas in that, because that's in binary. I'm at 512 subscribers, and it's also the doesn't fit in 9 bits time. I've gone through and for binary, my subscriber numbers no longer fit in the 9 binary bits. And of course, this is a little bit more to how people are able to read it on YouTube. I'm just having some fun. And this video is actually going to be on recognizing PS2, the desktop models that you see out there. Just a real quick guide to when you see a PS2, and this even applies to seeing them in movies and TV shows. We used to have a regular thing on the SIF news group to PS2 spottings of shows that we'd be watching, or even documentaries that would briefly show PS2s on the screen, and a little bit of speculation to what the model was, of course, with some of the shared desktop cases. Now, I'm going to start this by just saying you go to ardent-tool.com. I mean, that's the site that we use as a resource, as a reference. So in going through and navigating to the Ardent Tool site, we scroll down to the IBM systems here, and the first link there is the personal system /2, or PS2s, and identifies the type 85XX or 95XX. So going through and clicking on that link, that puts us into the grouping of the where the systems are. Where if you got a PS2, you know what it is by looking at the model. Where you drill down to in the site to look through those models and go to the appropriate page. As we see there, the desktop systems are listed first, desktop and tower, and then lower are the portable systems. They're a little bit out of the mix in this case, and you'll notice up above in the desktop and tower systems, it's not in necessarily a numerical order. It has where there are models there that are grouped together, even being relatively diverse numbers. And there's a reason for that in a way. It's more of the case styling and what can be in similar models, or as IBM had different tiers of levels of the PS2s, CPUs, memory capacity, performance, all that in those tiers, and those are grouped together. There's actually a reason for that, effectively, or it comes out to being very nice that way. It's a nice representation. And again, this is not covering the portable models here, and I do have another link that I can provide besides the links I'm going to go through for the video today, because this is going to be almost entirely web-based for what I'm going to show. I don't have any models back there on the bench or anything like that. I'm actually going through and trying to prep for some up-and-coming things, items I'll be working on tomorrow. But there's even a page I'll list within the video description, will not necessarily cover on video, that goes through and explains the different levels of what CPUs and other things that those submodels of those contain. Today we're going to go mostly over appearance, and I'm going to go to the second link on this page of the PS2 form factors. And so what Major Tom has done is he's done a picture of the front and just a chart that's based there, and he gives the appearance of how the front looks on most of those models that are in that style of case. And we're including at the top here that all-in-one Model 25. And then he goes through for the dimensions, the weight in both metric and English, expansion slots and bays, and then he has a link to the model over on the right. And there are certain things that, you know, with the 25 case, there's also the Model 25 286 and the Model 25 SX. But, you know, this is a very good chart just for the layperson to have an idea of, you know, I see a PS2, what model can I reduce it to, or what models were in particular cases. So moving down, and you notice on the next two, there's not much of a difference. There's the 8086 based Model 30, or just the plain, what's called the Model 30, or in colloquial terms, the Model 30 XT, 8-bit bus. And it's a little bit different from the models below it, you know, like the Model 30 286 case. It has that gray base, but this is just a little bit of a showing of basic differences. It's trying to cover the models, you know, the appearance of that front panel. Now, hard and fast rule, PS2s, anything below a Model 50 is not a microchannel bus. And I express it more of the not a microchannel bus because there can be situations where it's effectively an 8-bit, what they call the XT bus, or that what they call the ISA bus, the industry standard architecture of the 286 and above, on that industry standard architecture for other systems that weren't IBM. That same bus of the IBM AT and the XT286. And then there can also be, in the cases like the 33, which will be at the bottom of the chart that we'll look at, it is there can be even a relatively what amounts to a PCMCIA bus, or it's an ISA adapter that adapts that to PCMCIA, the little cards that you put in there, as they first came out before the PC cards specification later on. So I just say the models below the number 50 are ultimately what amount to ISA models, and that includes even the laptop, the portable systems that we're not quite getting into. I mean, there is a separation. There are laptops that are effectively, and portable systems that are effectively microchannel that are above Model 50. So it applies to all PS2s. Now, anything from the Model 50 up is microchannel. And it is not any other sort of bus that's necessarily mixed into that as well. There's not any models that are the so-called mixed bus that have anything like the PCI or ESIA or something of that nature, and not any ISA in models above 50. Now, there are PC servers that get into that, but again, we're going to cover just the PS2 desktop and tower models. Now, a lot of that, you know, they have IBM had the all-in-one case, and that later on was used in the EduQuest series that were in schools, has the integrated screen. Even there was Japanese equivalents to the PS2 that's called the PS/55. And some of those had integrated screens and things like that. When you get to the desktop area, IBM typically did what they considered a space saver. And as I've discussed in previous videos, often at times that is viewed as a 3x3, 3 drive bays and 3 slot expansions, whether that's, whatever bus type the system is. And then the desktop actually being what they relate as a 5x5, 5 expansion slots, 5 drive bays, and the towers being ultimately what it's considered 8x8 or 8 by whatever, 8 expansion slots, and then it could be many or above or close to 5 drive bays, depending on the model. Now, the explanation of drive bays on some of those, like you get into the Model 60s and 80s, well, is it half height? Is it full height? Whatever. The concept of drive bays becomes a little bit more complex in those cases. In some cases, that 3x3 notation or 5x5 notation is not necessarily applicable for the true drive bays. It's typically very close to directly of the expansion slots for adapters that are on the system. With the all-in-one, that Model 25 case, normally being initially 2 expansion slots, and then with the 25SX actually having a third or a reverse slot. But that's beyond the discussion here in this convention. I don't know if Tom has it labeled as 2 expansion slots, which is appropriate enough for most of the cases. So going down further, because I mentioned that microchannel difference, because the Model 3286 case is near identical as appearance from the front to the 55SX, and you can even go through. I'm not going to involve really the orange power switches and white power switches at this level, because that can vary a little bit as well. Typically out there, and it's not as hard a fast of a rule, is that a red switch or an orange switch is a lower model than what a white switch model is. The white switch models are typically, when you see a white switch, that means a higher level in some cases, or in most cases. And that will be applied. I'll talk about some of that with the Model 50, the 50Z, and Model 70 later on. So that Model 55SX, it can be in the same case. This is just narrowing down what the case looks like on front to know what models it could be in there. And as it's identified there for that he's got a notation marked on the left-hand side, that left-hand column. The all-in-one listed first, the D1, D1B, D1C. So the D1B, he's got effectively labeled for, it could be the Model 3286, or could be the Model 55SX. Also could be the, and it's, we're understanding like the Model 55LS is in the same case, and also that Model 53 that I've recently covered in a video can also be in that D1B case style. Now, so the D1C, he actually has identified there as Model 53, and it's even got the link in purple effectively for me here, because I've been to that page. So Thomas does have it. And as I was pointing out in that video, it's distinctive that the Model 53 has that diskette drive to the right-hand bay, based on the internal connections. It's just more appropriate to put that in that right-hand bay. So if you see a system like that with a blocked out bezel on the left and diskette drive on the right, that could be even a Model 53. We're talking about factory configurations too. We're not talking about somebody going through and modifying the case. and changing those drives around and kind of playing with things of determining what the model is. But as shown in this diagram, they are going to follow for the factory appearance of that front bezel to look like what is displayed. So immediately below that, we're going to get into the D2, and that being the Model 50 or 50Z or Model 70 cases. Now, for that, I mean, the 50 and 50Z are different planars. For the Model 70, that can be also a few different planars as well. And so it's just, they're all Model 70s, but there are some submodels. This is just going into the basic model identification, not getting down to necessarily to the submodels and the more detail. Now, I don't know if Thomas has it. He does show kind of a white label on these. Let's kind of look back at the top. Even to the lower left of the screen area, there's a little white rectangle there. Moving down to the Model 30, the D1, the white rectangle is over on the lower right of that case, as it is for the D1B, as it is for the D1C. Actually has it slightly lower. Getting to the D2, back to that the case for the Model 50 and 70, that label is still in the lower right hand corner, and that has the model submodel sequence. So you're going to see the submodels. The older PS2s, you're going to see an 85XX, like a Model 30 is going to be an 8530 dash. And so the first sequence is 4 digits, you have a dash, and then you have 3 digits for the submodel. Early PS2 submodel encoding, the models that were around in the initial introduction, those 3 digits are often abbreviated and not really consistent to what they mean within the PS2 family. They just have relevance within that model sequence. So you'll see 8530-201, 8530A21 submodel. And later on in the PS2 family, IBM actually went through and put more relevance to those 3-digit submodels that you could decode them, and IBM even has charts. In fact, let me get up my pocket reference real quickly here and get into the front. And there's even Major Tom has even pages that cover the that I contributed, and also other members of the SIF news group went through and decoded some of the processor types that could be reflected in some of the digits. And I even have for mine, and this is even on page 6 and 7 of this the IBM Pocket reference. And I can hold it up to the screen. Going to 6 and 7 over here on page 7. It does have where it goes through and decodes the later PS2s by that first digit, meaning something like hard drive and memory sizes or installed OS. Could even mean a special bid to where the following digits are not relevant in that case, or something different. The middle digit typically being the CPU on those later PS2s, and that last digit going through, and it looks like a hard drive size for that. That first character, I guess they have regular system, special bid, multimedia, applications, and they can even have that can even mean the installed OS on that. And maybe I need to go through and scan even the pen little changes. I don't know how caught up I am in some of that, and some of it was kind of speculation. IBM didn't necessarily go through and identify, but it looked like a belief that they were going to go through from the at least the 386SX level. They didn't have 286 in there for the CPU encoding. Like I said, none of those initial PS2s, like the MUL 50 and MUL 60, are in kind of that sub-MUL decoding. But they went through for all the speeds of like the 386SX and 386DX and all their 46 SLC, 46 SLC2, SLC3, all those different levels of CPUs through the 46 models up to even the Pentium level, the beginning Pentium level. IBM had to have like a digit or letter that signified in a single digit, single character for that center digit of what that CPU was. And that's relevant only to the later PS2 systems. So getting a little bit further, we get down to the what Major Tom has identified as the D3, a desktop, of the basically identified third style, and this would be the MUL 35SX, the Model 56, the MUL 76, all share those cases. And remember back to the page where you drill down to the MULs to find your starter diskette or your reference diskette. Those models are grouped all in that same line. It has 35 SX, has 56, 76, and a lot of time even the larger desktop model, and that's below the D4, is that bigger case. And so often at times, and that's the D3 is that space saver side. That's when IBM was finally getting into the notion of that 3x3 for being marked as a space saver. The 5x5 represented here as a D4 as the desktop model. And between the D3 and the D4, they often shared, there were systems that shared the same planar. For instance, I sent a Bermuda planar to Curious Mark that was used in the MUL 77, and that being the D4 level. But there's also Bermuda-based 76s, and it's just a smaller case, same planar, different height of riser. And there's actually a ways to go through and determine in software on whether you're running on that 3x3 space saver or running on that 5x5 desktop system. Even in some cases, like we saw with the previous video I did on the 8500 series MUL 56 and MUL 57 as compared to the 9500 series MUL 56 and 57. Those being actually differentiated by CPU levels as well. There's a multitude of planars that fit in the same system to take them at different levels, and the 9500 series being newer than the 8500 series. The later PS2s are the 95XX series of models. Also, a little bit of what is confusing in a way is like for the MUL 76 and 77, they could even have different planars that were in the system, being a Bermuda planar or like a Lacuna planar. And those are marked out on those individual pages. If you drill through, if you were to click on the links of this chart on the right, it would take you to the page of representing those Model 77s. And you could further split out to recognizing the difference between if you had a Bermuda planer or if you had a Lacuna planer. And there's, you know, this doesn't cover looking at the back, looking at the planar connections for differentiating that. But with the planar outlines and things like that, you would be able to figure out deeper. You know, you get we're past looking at the front bezel of the computer of the PS2. We're going through and opening up and looking inside at that point. So we get down to the D5 representation being the Model 90. And, you know, that being the desktop level comparison to, once we get in the towers down below. Now we're in the T1s, the Model 60, 65SX, and Model 80 cases. Starting at 286 level, going up to the 386SX, and then the Model 80 being 386DX, and even in some cases 486, you know, expansion boards or whatever that planers that are in there. But going through and seeing the front, the tower cases being that long, very slender tower, even with feet that you could put out to stabilize a little bit. The so-called, sometimes I refer to them as tabletop legs, because I've heard of, you know, put one on each end of a piece of plywood or something else, or a door you've taken down and making a table, because those add enough height to be at the right point that you could work on like a desk level. The T2, we're getting into the Model 85, the Model 95, both the 85, 95, and the 95, 95. So those being that T2 level of cases, even between the differentiation between the Model 85 not having that info window, you know, the info window is shown here, and then the 85, 95 having it on one side of that top part of the tower, and the 95, 95 having it on the other side. So it doesn't go down to kind of that sort of details. Once you actually get into the drilling into what models, you click on that model, that to the right hand side, that link that Major Tom has provided, it goes in and you can go through and further differentiate those by submodels. Now, also the Model 90 up above for the desktop, and the Model 95 having those complex that can be seated in there. And Lewis even sent me an email aside, and he says he can make me a star if I'll do a video on seating the complex, because that can be a little bit challenging sometimes. And I'll probably go through and follow through, and it's helpful information of going through and getting that that complex seated, and do a couple examples on video. But those complexes can be so many varying levels, even from a 386DX 20 megahertz, what's called the Type 0, and even the Type 0 minus, the T1, the T2, the T3, the T4, and those are abbreviations for types, that they can have a wide variety, even up to the Pentium levels on those CPUs on those complex cards. And Major Tom again goes through and he breaks those out. Once you go to the Model 95 page, you've got a list, and you're able to go through. He's got a complex identification guide to where if you have the complex right in front of you, you can look at the little diagram and the outline of that to figure out what complex you have. And I'm not going to go through and cover that today. And in fact, that'll be great if I'm able to go. We're just breezing up on the half-hour video, and that is great because we're going to be able to wrap this up here shortly once we go through. And the last item on this chart that Major Tom has is that PS2 model 33, what was called the E for energy efficient, being in what he has identified as the SF, which is a very small package, and it was ultimately a planer in there. Actually, the planer is kind of cool, and I think I've done I haven't done enough videos on the 33, and I had them out the other day. I'll need to go through and bring those out again and kind of cover going through them, because they're compact inside. You just going through and looking at the insides, and I mean, I've got the stack of them here, even 4 or 5 feet away from my feet. I need to go through those again, and those are unique, and you know, it can be descriptive enough to go through and he has identified, I think this is the E from what I'm seeing in my I'm farsighted. Yeah, it's got identified as PS2E, but that is the 33. And as you know by the explanation I've gone through, MAL 33 is not a microchannel system. So, you know, there's that. Now, there was even other RS6000 systems, and that's a whole different ballgame. We're not going to go into those as well, those technical details. There's a lot of those, different sizes. Sometimes used, or you have other systems out there, the RT systems that went through and used the PS2 cases. So that can be a little bit confusing as well. But you're mainly wanting to look. In fact, I'm wanting to show, I guess I do need to go over on the PS2E. I think it's down in that lower right-hand corner still for that white rectangle of the, or maybe it's on the left, lower left, of that model submodel encoding. And for the model 95 and model 85, it's right below the power switch and that info panel level up at the top of the system. And for the model 60, 65SX, model 80 system, it's immediately below the power switch off to the right. You can see that white rectangle in the diagram. And that's where you should look. You know, you should look at what 7 digits are there for that model submodel encoding, because that'll tell you a little bit more. And you'll even get to be a little bit professional, that you'll recognize, hey, I get a 8580-A, you know, character, that leading digit being an A, of recognizing, hey, that's a planar at a certain level of a model 80. It just comes to the territory, it comes with a little bit of learning. I'm just trying to get people to recognize the basics to PS2s, understand that hard and fast rule about over the MAL 50, it's microchannel. You know, MAL 50 and above is microchannel. Below MAL 50 is not microchannel. Just those basics to recognizing the systems when you see them out there. I think it's, I don't know how much there are in the thrift shops or out there, but it's just a quick way. It's a way to understand what you see out there, to be able to place a little bit of a value or something else, or know what you're seeing there. So we're going to go through, and lastly, I'll go back, and as I say, I'll link to the these pages I'm going through and representing, and also link through to a page that I'm not going to show on screen that goes through and it talks about all the CPU levels and other things that Major Tom has laid out. For this first link, that the PS2 family overview, he does a little bit of that, and he has links, and this even covers, it has the mobile system, it has the laptops, the L that IBM used for meaning a laptop system, CL meaning color laptop, N meaning being a notebook system, and P, leading P for being a portable system, like the P70 and P75. And really soon, I'm going to be doing and probably system information tool initially on the PS2 model P75. I've covered some of the P70s earlier. It's a kind of the briefcase computer style. You get the little handle on there, carried around like a little briefcase. The P75 is wider, able to have more microchannel adapters in there, higher levels, 46 level CPUs, and that beautiful orange plasma screen. So look around for that coming up. It's not going to be immediate, but I plan probably within a week or two here. I can do that, and that'll be a lot of interest going through for that. But going through this page, that Major Tom has the links over on the left-hand side to go through, and it's explained in there as far as what those different levels or systems are, and that is in numerical order to where it's more separated and tells you what to expect at that for the level of those systems. And that is a little bit handy where you can see that ISA and microchannel split for the bus types and what the PS2 models mean for that. So we're back at the IBM PS2 family page here. That page that you've got a PS2, you're going to drill into from going to the Ardent Tool. It's ardent-tool.com site, and going through to the IBM PS2 family and having the links to go through by your model numbers to find the information, that resource that you need. This is compiled information. Started ultimately with Louis Olin going through compiling data from the CIF news group, comp.sys.ibm.ps2.hardware. And CIF is still out there and still relatively active. There are people, including Louis, still contributing to that. But Louis went through and he started compiling information from Peter Wen and other sources on that CIF news group to be of benefit to people. And so it's a great resource that we have for these systems that are getting on to be, in upwards of 30 years old for a lot of the range of the IBM PS2s. So if you enjoyed this content, click on that like button. Another video under my belt. We went through, I talked about the 10000000000 subscribers I have in binary. Decimal, it's 512. And that is more than halfway there of where I want to be. I want to be up, I want a kilo of subscribers. I want, whether it's 1,000 or 1,024 in computer notation, would love to have that number of subscribers to make YouTube announcements. And the next live stream that I'm going to try on Saturday, it's going to be on a Facebook format. I will provide links in the description to the comp.sys.ibm.ps2 hardware, the CIF news group, and I'll also provide a link to the Facebook site that we also call CIF, the Facebook group that people get on, and we've had a lot of new members lately and talking about they've found these PS2 systems, and they're looking for help in that and being guided in the right direction for that. But I'll provide the links to that, and the announcement of the event, the Facebook event for the live stream I'll do on Saturday. And I'll have to determine the time of day, but it'll be listed in there, and you can even click on the button saying, hey, I plan on going. You'll get the reminder at the right time to go through. It's just something I'm going to try. I'm not necessarily getting away from the YouTube live stream, but I'm just wanting to try on that different Facebook side to go through and see what that does. Just getting out there and using these different media types, and that can get people introduced to the SIF group on Facebook, the PS2 PC servers that are covered within that group. And there is a separate group for the Mall 25s and Mall 30s. And that sometimes gets a little bit extra content, a little spillover, but it's a little bit more dedicated to the Mall 25 and 30. I'll provide a link to that as well. And I'll go through and create the event within that group as well, so people can find it and follow that live stream. But you know, we talked about subscribers. If you like this content, please subscribe my channel. Please recommend it to your friends so we can get up to that number of subscribers I'm looking for. But that is all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.